So, Deep Cover is a British action comedy film produced for Amazon Prime Video, directed by Tom Kingsley. It's written by Colin Trevorrow, Derek Connolly, Ben Ashenden and Alexander Owen. The last two people also star in the film. It stars Bryce Dallas Howard, Orlando Bloom, Nick Mohammed, Paddy Considine, Ian McShane and Sean Bean. And the film is actually out now. By the time this video goes out, it'll be streaming. Look who's here, Sarah from Popcorn Chat, who I saw at South by. Good to see you, Sarah.
Hi, Phil. Thanks for having me back on the channel. Always love being on Boys on Film. It was nice seeing you in person. Always good to catch up and see some films together. So yeah, I think I'm about recovered now from South by Southwest.
So the premise of Deep Cover then, set in the London criminal underworld, 3 improv actors recruited by the police for sting operations in which they must, in inverted commas, yes and their way into a criminal gang. That is basically rule of thumb, isn't it, in improv?
It is. As someone who goes to an improv theatre class every Tuesday.
Well, you're the perfect person to ask then. So you need to expand on... Yes and is basically that, isn't it? Expanding on a line of thinking.
Yeah, you have to accept the information someone gives you in a scene. So if someone says, I'm a butcher, you have to say, okay, I would like, 2 sausages, please, or whatever, you just kind of have to go with it. And I think that's a great sort of setup for Deep Cover.
Done improv. So could you relate to anything in this movie? Could you relate to any of it? Quite a lot.
Yeah, the sort of setup in the first act, I was like, is this film about us? I felt like it was like speaking to me as someone who's been doing it for about 7 months now. I was like, okay, those are the sort of cliche things about improv and comedy. So yeah, it felt like they'd kind of written it from my perspective. So I really enjoyed that part of it. And I think that's where the chaos kind of lends itself, is the whole setup of them being improv actors.
Sarah, you felt seen. You felt seen.
I did. I never thought this would be the film that would really make me feel seen on the big screen, but it was.
Let's talk about the script. I personally thought it was a really good script. I thought the lines were funny. I thought the character development was good. And also the way they fine-tuned their behaviour as well, because I think that's really important when you're balancing comedy and action, because a lot of the themes of the story are quite dark, because obviously it centres around crime, but I thought it was good how they fine-tuned the way the actors played them was good, because Orlando Bloom, his character Orlando, is kind of quite, he takes himself quite seriously, not stupid so much. I guess Nick Mohammed's character was fairly simple in the in the way that he was quite a well-behaved guy who never did anything outlandish, and in this one scene where he has to take drugs, which is quite funny. Because you wouldn't see him do that normally with his job, with his banking job, because he works in the city. So I liked that.
Yeah, I liked that. I like Nick coming in as the kind of straight guy in this and sort of being very new to this kind of, I guess, gangster world in which it descends into. And I think that's when his sort of comedy muscles are really, allowed to flex, because, let's put this character in unlikely situations, then what would happen? So I thought that was amazing. And I think, like you say, Phil, they kind of balance the tone just right. There's some elements where it just feels, it's really serious with, Sean Bean or Ian McShane's character. You're like, okay, this does feel like a genuine kind of gritty British gangster film, but then it's cut through with that comedy, and I think that's a really good balance.
Yeah, I thought the casting was excellent, because we've seen Sean Bean in really tough roles before, where he plays either criminals or people that are affected by the dark side of life. And Bryce Dallas Howard, going back to that balance, because you've got the 2 men that she's essentially kind of keeping track of, she's keeping them in check, isn't she? Nick Mohammed and Orlando Bloom, who are kind of, I guess, a bit stupid. She's not. So she's obviously the improv comedy manager, because she's training these improv comedians, and she's keeping them in check. So I liked that, because it was almost girl power in a sense.
Oh yeah, she's kind of the badass, and I think she's acknowledged as the brains of the trio throughout the film. I don't think it's necessarily a departure from anything I've seen her do, whereas I was a bit more surprised by the likes of Orlando Bloom with his comedy. But I think she does exactly what she needs to do in order to kind of carry this trio and the film, essentially, for these sort of, the whirlwind in which they go on, and she's badass like throughout. I love it.
She is, and I guess she's more serious in terms of the comedy. It's Nick Mohammed. I mean, you know, it's obvious that Nick Mohammed is going to be funny because he's a comedian. That's what he does. But like you say, Orlando Bloom, I don't think I've ever seen him in a role that is genuinely funny because you do laugh at his behaviour.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's known for like Lord of the Rings and Pirates of the Caribbean. So I think what was really interesting was seeing him being self-aware and kind of departing from that, but also kind of taking the mick out of himself, I think was really interesting. So props to him. I'd love to see him in more comedy roles come off the back of this.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't take long to get into the action either because it's pretty wham bam. I mean, it's a fairly short running time compared to a lot of films now, which are 2 hours plus. This is about 1 hour and 40, I think, and I think it's just right. It doesn't waste time. It doesn't waste time getting into the action and the story arc. You know, needed threat obviously in the final act, and it does go a bit more serious. I guess it's less funny the last part for that reason, and I think it did wane a little bit. My attention was always there, but I think it was probably funnier in the first half. Deliberately so, probably.
Yeah, I think I found the most fun in the setup, definitely in that first act, and then them kind of coming to terms with what Sean Bean's character wants from them ultimately and the kind of mistakes that lead them down the way. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Phil, like that last act. Though I do like Paddy Considine. I think he became quite an integral part into the narrative later on. But yeah, the tone definitely shifts, and I think it kind of loses sight a little bit further on. But I do think the police officers, which are the two writers, coming into it and being more present in the last bit does help kind of have that comedic relief.
And Sean Bean as well. I don't know if you're a fan of Slow Horses.
Yes, I do watch it, yeah.
Did you? Because I thought he was kind of similar to Gary Oldman's character in a way.
Yeah, less farting, but
less farting, yeah, less greasy hair, and probably not as funny as Gary Oldman's character. But I think, you know, the way he despaired of the people that he was controlling, that were working for him, I found there was a bit of a connection.
Yeah,
tonally.
Definitely. I think they were kind of jumping on the back of that success of shows like Slow Horses, very much a London kind of crime show, which I think is great. Yeah, I think he did a great job, and you kind of detest his character as it goes on. So
yeah, because I love Sean Bean. I think he's excellent in every role that I've seen him in. He never lets you down. I think when it comes to kind of, you know, the grittier roles, yes, this is a comedy, so it's not as gritty, but I think he plays that really well. And, you know, again, with the comedy, you know, that he was kind of, like I say, despairing of these people, and you could relate to him more.
Yeah, definitely. You can see the frustration, I think, through his perspective initially.
And sympathise with his character.
Yeah, he does feel kind of
worn out
eyes in the kind of film, but yeah.
Ian McShane as well, pretty terrifying.
Oh my God. Probably the scariest sort of villain I've seen in a comedy for a long time. I mean, the teeth alone scaring me. I don't know why they made him wear those teeth, unless there is real teeth, and I'm so sorry, Ian. He was talking with a lisp. I was like, you don't normally sound this way, so I'm going to say they're fake. So let us know if I'm wrong.
And Paddy Considine, you mentioned, loved him in Dead Man's Shoes. I know that's quite a while ago, but he's always good as well. Nice that he's able to have comedy in his part, because again, I've not really seen him play many comedy roles. Might be wrong, but maybe I've not seen those films
not
or
since
TV
Hot
shows.
Fuzz, really. I think he's done a lot more.
I guess there's that. Forgot about that.
There's a lot more drama, though. He's obviously been in House the Dragon. Yeah, and I think, he was able to kind of lean into the comedic elements when he needs to on, like, you know, the nights out, you know, the sort of drug-infused nights out, but then play that more dramatic role as well. So, yeah, I love him.
Yeah. It's a ride. It's good fun, I think, this film.
Yeah, it's entertaining. I'm glad we saw it with an audience, which I think made it for me. I think, you know, sitting at home on the sofa, probably by myself, would not have been as funny. So having other people around you laughing, I was like, oh yeah, you know, I can laugh out loud. So yeah, it definitely improved the experience, I think.
It is a crowd pleaser. You're right. Absolutely right. And Maz as well, who we were with, she said the same. She said, you know, it's the kind of film you know, if you do watch it at home, grab yourself a glass of wine and you'll enjoy it. It's not anything spectacular. I mean, I would probably go for a 3-star if I'm going to rate it a strong 3. I mean, I was going to say 3.5. We don't really do halves, but it's an enjoyable watch.
Yeah, I would say the same. I'd say 3. I think it's kind of obviously above average. Am I going to go and seek it out again? Probably not. I think maybe because the streaming format, I'm not going to dive into Amazon's catalog and select it. But if it's on or someone wants to watch it again, sure, I'd watch it. It was an entertaining hour and 40, so can't really go wrong.
It's a job well done, I think, in terms of what kind of film it is, because I think very rarely you see something that balances crime comedy. You know, usually a bit average. This is definitely above average.
Yeah, I think most of the stuff I've seen is American, really. I can't really think of too many British comedy, besides Hot Fuzz. Like, that is probably the last kind of good comedic crime film, I guess.
Yeah, you're right. And I guess there's an American production element to this, because the producers, there was one guy that was there at the Q&A.
Yes,
Is he the producer, one of the producers?
He was, and I think he was saying it was loosely based on like a short story or a concept that they were sort of working on in America, and they've brought it over, and it feels very British. So I'm glad they did, because I think that kind of separates it from the rest of the kind of films and TV you get on streaming services. So I'm glad they did.
Yeah, and they did get a good reaction, you know, because if something isn't funny, you don't laugh out loud with a crowd. I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, some people might do that, but I don't. And I did laugh quite a few times, so it definitely passed the laughter test. If you're going for, you know, more than 1 or 2 laughs. So yeah, 3 stars. Check it out on Prime Video. Good to see you, Sarah. What's coming up on Popcorn Chat? You've probably got lots of content still to come.
Gosh, yeah, there's more content to come out from South by Southwest. Yeah, I just filmed the whole week non-stop, and I'm just like cutting it up. And a few reviews as well from some specific films that I saw at the festival, such as Plainclothes, and I might talk about some other films as well. But yeah, I'm just gearing up for another film festival I have in July in Bristol called Cinema Rediscovered, where it's showing a lot of 80s British kind of Channel 4 BFI films. I'm excited to watch.
Oh wow, that sounds amazing. That's definitely my bag.
My Beautiful Laundrette is showing, which is a great film. So
that's really funny you mentioned that, because when I saw Plainclothes, I know we went to a different screening because you saw it, I think, the day after.
Yes,
a different
I did.
one, but it was because it was at Curzon, wasn't it? You saw it,
Curzon.
So same venue, but different days. So I wasn't. I didn't see it with you, but there was a guy in the audience who asked a question behind me, and I guess he was in his 60s, but anyway, he said he'd never seen a film that was as important and relevant for him growing up, because when he was growing up in the 80s, that really resonated with him, My Beautiful Laundrette, and he felt the same with Plainclothes. So that's obviously a big gap, you know. It's quite impressive for him to say, you know, it's been that long that he's never seen a film that was quite so powerful.
And that's a real big compliment to the director of Plainclothes as well. So
absolutely, I think it was quite you know, he was taken aback by that. He was really flattered by that. So we've got that to come. But that's the next time I'm going to see you, because we're going to be reviewing Plainclothes in a few days.
Yes, you'll see my face very soon on Boys on Film.